Assalamualaikum, good afternoon. I'm Shazlina Zakaria from Malaysia Productivity Corporation in MPC Productivity Talk 7th series. Tune in every Friday, 3 p.m. Media communication has enormous influential in our lives. It brings people together, your friends, families, business associates, regulators, and many more. It changes your lives to the better or even worse, depending on how effective you manage it. So how significant it is to productivity? Find out more from our special guest right after this. Welcome to MPC Talk Series 7. With me now is Puan Zuhaila Sedek, the Head of Corporate Communication, Ministry of International Trade and Industry. Welcome to our show, Puan Zuhaila. Thanks for being with us despite your busy schedule.
Thank you, Shaz, for having me. And I'm very honored to be invited today. And I'm here at the very comfortable library at Menara MITI. And of course, we are under one family. And I'm excited to share some information or experiences on communication and how we can better use it to improve productivity.
Okay, Puan Zu, we observe that you have quite a vast experience looking at the challenging times, maneuvering the media communication in MITI, being one of the core ministries in driving the economic development of the country. So maybe you can share with us a little bit on what is the relationship between media communications and productivity, or maybe for the benefits of people out there, what is the meaning or the understanding of media communications? If you may share a little bit on that.
Thank you, Shaz. Communications is everything. It's everything that we do. It has a direct relationship with productivity. In a nutshell, good communications ensure that you will have clarity. When the employers and employees have clarity in their activities, their day-to-day activities, you can rest assured that the deliverables will be as what you projected. And I think a lot of organizations out there underestimate the power of good communications because everything starts from a communication. Communication is basically information that you transmit from one person to another, and then you use outlets and media tools to help transmit those information. So by having or selecting the right approach and models as well as outlets to communicate, you will be able to channel your ideas or articulate your ideation better to your stakeholders. And I think any organization out there, particularly small and medium enterprises, should make communication an inherent part of their organization. In the pursuit of business excellence, a lot of people don't realize the importance of communication until now. I think the pandemic gave a lot of highlights on the importance of good communications, effective communications. But again, communications is actually a skill, and it has a lot to do with continuing to practice to improve your communication execution. So effective communication media should become a key part of any organization and should be paid attention to and should be invested, and any management should invest in good communication.
So what do you think organizations or companies should emphasize on investments on media communications rather than, other things that is more important, which they feel, I suppose, that is more important to improve productivity instead of spending more on media communications?
In the context of businesses, if you understand good communication and you understand how you can apply digital technology to it, you'll be able to discover your niche. You will be able to understand the blue ocean strategy for your organization that you can adopt moving forward. So I think communication is a catalyst to really understand who you are as an organization, and to really improve yourself and your execution, your work processes, and it is an investment that is very, very valuable. But I understand, if you want something that is good, you have to invest not only in your resources, but in manpower, but also in the money. So the culture in Asia, specifically, we like to invest in cheap. So that's a very wrong strategy. If you want to have something that is good, you must invest in value. So the mindset of any organization must be swayed towards that. You must invest in value. Don't invest in cheap, especially when it comes to communication.
Okay, having said that, all the points that you bring up earlier, so we're coming to the next questions, how to bring your facts into relating media communications to productivity, how it can improve productivity. Okay, so we look in the context of how media communication can play a major role in improving productivity of organizations, be it small, medium, or large organizations.
I think in the context of productivity, any organization must first understand the demarcation of communication areas. In communication, you have internal communication and you also have external communication. So internal communication is what you do to communicate information or to pass information to your internal stakeholders, such as the employee and also maybe your vendors. External on the other hand, involve communication to external parties such as media practitioners and industry players, and also potential buyers. So I think it's important to understand the different stakeholders so that you don't apply one rule for all. It doesn't work that way. In communication, you have to do a lot of customization because everybody behaves very differently. And the demarcation of role and understanding how people behave or respond to a certain communication is very important so that you'll be able to tell them what they need to know or to tell them something that they can relate to. So this clarity, you can also connect it to the true north of your business. What exactly you want to achieve from your business operations or from your practices. So you can use communication to support your organization agenda. And focusing on communication actually helps organization to identify gaps, like I mentioned earlier, to identify what are your weaknesses and what are the new areas that you have yet to tap into. So with this clarity, you not only avoid misunderstanding, you can also promote a good culture, a culture that is very proactive, a culture within an organization that is always thinking ahead of what the potential crisis would be. Because in communication, it's actually crisis communication. You're actually managing crisis all the time. Because apart from managing crisis that is happening now, PR practitioners actually, they want to avoid crisis. So the general rule is that you're doing crisis management all the time. So I think any challenge means that, for me, I see a challenge as an opportunity to innovate, to do things differently. So as much as you are managing crisis all the time, meaning you try to avoid issues, but at the same time, there must be some risk-taking. So risk-taking is when you get to achieve something that is new and meaningful. So I think when it comes to risk-taking, it's important to have a good open discussion with your management to help them understand what exactly that you want to achieve, your intent in your communication plan. So it's important to communicate this to your management so that they understand and you have the buy-in. And when the buy-in comes, then you will get the empowerment. So I think a lot of communicators out there, empowerment is a big issue because trust is often a commodity that is very expensive. You gotta earn it. So I think it's important to be okay to be criticized. It's okay to be criticized. A lot of, especially in Malaysia, everything is about face value. You don't like to be condemned, but we have to think we have to think bigger. We must be bigger than the problem. Meaning it's okay when people don't understand, meaning that you have an opportunity to educate people. When you educate people, people learn from you, you earn a credibility. You'll be a focal point for that particular subject. So what I would like to share with all the industry players out there, make sure that you have a close relationship with your communications team, and you must be able to trust each other. And if you are not a communication expert, you must listen to the experts. A lot of times, I think this is the elephant in the room, lah. A lot of times communications activities or strategies are decided by people who don't understand communications. So, and then communications evolution, it's happening like every minute. So, like I said, it's all about sentiment. It's all about how people feel about you. So it's about brand emotion. At the same time, it's about articulation of facts, and how do you be emotional in a very dry topic, And MITI and agencies, we face a lot of that issue because our topics, they are very specific. They are very targeted to a certain group of stakeholders. So they tend to be a little bit more dry, less sexy compared to if you were to be in FMCG, if you were to be in a brand that the masses can relate to. So again, it's a challenge, meaning it's an opportunity to innovate, to find a middle ground, a connecting dot on how you want to relate to the public at the same time without setting aside your key stakeholders. And I think it's really important. First thing first, must be open to understanding how communication works.
We're going to ask more questions to Puan Zu, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
Today, the industries have shifted its focus into the next step, which is much more accessible and faster: the web. Nowadays, the net has become an essential tool for businesses to flourish. This is because everyone is moving faster with it, and if you don't catch up, you'll be left behind.
Not only that, with nets, work has become much more easier to deal with. Thus, it increases overall productivity. Increased productivity equals healthier workforce, which will lead increasing profits. The practical way to stay ahead or be at the level of our competition is to adapt this lifestyle.
By joining MPC program, you will be given the tools that will help your company to flourish. Our duty is to increase productivity in company by using the web as the primary platform.
Within our programs, we will provide tools such as productivity gain measurement, APGM, which offers companies the need to know basis on productivity measurement and also its company's own productivity rate. ZBE Assessment Tool is a self-assessment application to help company evaluate efficiency based on 4 aspects: strategy and leadership, talent management, operational excellence, customer focus and product experience.
And finally, benchmarking online networking database, Bond, which acts as a library of the best practices employed by other companies. It also enables you to share your own practices with other companies to follow. See it as a social platform for industry.
We also have a group called Nexus, which acts as a union organization to assist companies in a more human touch, providing consultations and discussions among professional industry to gain more insight of matters that affect company and findings.
So why wait now?
Why work hard when we can work efficiently?
The future of industry has already arrived.
Welcome back to MPC Productivity Talk Series 7. Okay, Puan Zu, the next discussions, we're going to talk about the applications of technology in media communication. So what if companies can take advantage of the latest technology, in managing media communications? And we understand that social media is one of the main effective tools in managing communication. So how can they measure the impact of the impact of using the technology or social media in their businesses?
Okay, I think the pandemic has expedited the adoption of technologies as everyone is adopting new ways of doing things. The way we govern a business is no longer like before. Everybody adopts working from home practices, for example. So meaning this requires for a change, a big change in how you want to communicate day-to-day operations with between employees and employers. So I think there are a couple of research out there on SMEs acceptance or how receptive they are towards work from home practices. And surprisingly, a lot of SMEs, they find it very tedious because you can't beat face-to-face communication, But what we can do, we need to adapt with the current situation that needs to be done. We can't change the pandemic, but we can change the way we do things. So I think technology helps to provide seamless work process. So when it comes to communication, it has a lot to do with speed, meaning you need to be fast, but at the same time you need to be effective. So it's very difficult when you have very little time to communicate or to strategize your communication content, and ensure that the quality is good, and you have to put it out very quickly. That's why you can use technology. So there are a lot of technologies out there. For example, chatbots. Chatbots is something that can help organization immensely in managing public inquiries. And it is also an important tool to build your brand. Good chatbot system, because chatbots, of course, you have to feed in the information, and it's being managed by an AI, the bot, who will see where the question sent in the chatbot, where does it match to the input of information that you keyed in. So the more information you put in your chatbot, the smarter the AI will be. So it makes your life easier. So you don't have to spend a lot of resources. You don't have to put a lot of people to manage public inquiries, because the chatbot can do that for you. And I think during the pandemic, this is a good example. And secondly, I think using workplace or common working ground platform such as Facebook, I don't know what you call it, Facebook Work, and also there are a lot of softwares out there, free and also something that you need to purchase, that you can opt for to manage communications and working flow amongst your employees, where your employees will be able to key in their tasks on a daily basis, and you'll be able to track the progress. So I think in Malaysia, we don't really fully capitalize on this. We still like to use notebooks. We still like to use Excel, which is fine. I mean, whatever works for your organization. But if there's an option out there to make things work better and faster, why not? But I think people naturally is very fearful towards something that they don't know. So the more you know of something that's very foreign to you, the better and less fearful you will be. And another on your question on social media, I think social media is the mainstream platform right now. It's free for all, and it encourages freer movement of information. So basically, there's no filter, and it is scary to a certain extent. If you look at Trump campaign back a few years back, they used social media, Cambridge Analytica, to study people's preferences and really target and retarget the stakeholders based on their preferences. So for example, if you like something that is very Republican like, then usually will come with a common trait. So you capitalize on this common trait to target the mindset of that person. So this can be applied. This, of course, you wouldn't want to do something like that, but I think the principle is very effective. And I think it can be adopted by businesses out there to really target and retarget your new consumers and also retain the current consumers. So you can use social media to analyze the demographics based on their locations and when do these people communicate on social media, so that you can be effective in, you don't have to communicate throughout the 24 hours in a day, but you can just target a certain window because this is a time that your stakeholders, your key stakeholders are active. So you communicate with them during that time frame, then you'll be able to get more traction and get more engagement. And I think it's also important for me to highlight that sway away or don't focus too much on the vanity metrics. The vanity metrics are something that we can see from the number of likes, the number of share. Of course, it's a good indicator, but what's most important is the analytics of that specific content. How many people actually see this content? You see, the way social media works is that when you see a post, and if it doesn't relate to you, very unlikely that you will click or like or reshare. Like any one of us, if I see a post that I'm not interested in, for example, something that I don't, for example, if I see an ad on Facebook selling tent, it's not something that I'm familiar with, I'm not particularly interested in it, there's no reason for me to click, So the same with our businesses, with our organizations' values. If it's something that that the masses can relate to, why would they want to engage with you? So the challenge is to find that middle ground that I was talking about, so that they have a relatability point that they can do something about it, So look at the number of impressions, look at how many people have seen that content, and then within this pool of people, look at where they are and who they are. Are they more female centric? If they are more female centric, then you must understand, do I present my content in a very feminine way? Do you want to cater to more male demographics? Then you have to change your messaging a little bit. So I think understanding how social media works, very important. And now social media, they operate based on algorithms. So algorithms meaning like they use AI to really understand, classify you based on your interests, based on the time that you're active, based on what outlet or tools that you use to be engaging in that particular platform. If people are using more mobile phones to access social media, then the type of messaging must be catered to be. It has to be mobile friendly. So I think understanding the backstory of social media on how it works can really benefit an organization, because you can be very specific. So you don't have to do everything at one go. You can just do one thing and do it well. Okay.
So, having said that, the overuse of media or content, okay, the overloaded of information in social media, because people tend to load everything in social media, okay, because you're fighting or competing against a limited space. So, what is your opinion on this?
Yeah. The difficult part about social media is that it's accessible to billions of people in the world, meaning you have a lot of information out there. So how do you make yourself stand out from this gazillions information? This is where in the future, I think SMEs or businesses or any organization should pay attention to building brand emotion, because the truth of the matter is that human beings, they don't necessarily remember what you do, but they remember how they make you feel. So really articulating and really strategizing in building your brand emotion is actually golden. Like, you need to put a lot of attention to that. And I think that a lot of people wants to have quick wins. They want to see the impact fast, quickly. I want to see 100 likes today. It doesn't work like that. But this is only on social media, and when you put out press releases, or when you do any covert missions, brand building takes time. So if you look at Malaysia to really Asia, it took like 15 or more than a decade for people to really, really understand it, and for it to have a strong position in the region. So likewise, for any brand building, it takes time, but you need to start somewhere, and you need to be clear on what kind of messaging, what kind of emotions, what kind of brand messaging, brand articulation that you want to use. Without this clarity, you will keep on jumping from one to another. There are brands out there that you don't necessarily have to see their content, but this is their brand. For example, I'm not sure whether it's Heineken or Carlsberg. In Malaysia, if you look at their trucks, right, they don't put the name Heineken or Carlsberg there. But that is their brand, because their corporate identity is so strong. Their branding is so strong. And DG, for example, DG is yellow. You see the design, you see the aesthetics of it, it's DG. Maxis, Maybank, all these brands are good case studies that you can refer to. See what Apple, you don't have to say much about Apple. People know it's Apple. The way you treat, the treatment of your approach, the treatment of your content, there's a certain consistency. So this is where I think it's also important. The moment you identify what exactly you want to say, what exactly you want to project about your brand, you must be consistent with it. Don't keep on changing it, because brand building takes time. So the more consistent you are, the better. So if you don't see the result in the beginning, the first few years of executing your communication activities, your branding activities, you will be restless, because you want to see that results quickly, right? So, but give it some time, because if one person's view does not necessarily equal to everybody else's views. So you need to give it time, and it's very subjective. Like I said, communication is not something that you can quantify, not something that you can, you see a product, okay, this is one box of communication. No, it doesn't work like that. So I think it is important to give it time, to think and strategize. Then when you have the 30,000 feet planning, then you go to the tactical level and operational level. Then you execute. So a lot of times we go directly to the activities, without understanding what's the intent here. Why we want to do this thing today, So we need to must know why we do things to be able to do it well.
So we come to the last questions, Puan Zuhaila. In your opinion, okay, taking all the sharing of thoughts earlier, okay, do you think that organizations or companies out there need a media or marketing background personnel to manage an effective communication in their organizations?
Yeah, I think it's not so much about having someone with a media background, but really to have a group of people within your communications team with very diverse background. So because in communications, there are a lot of branches. You have media relations, you have PR, you have marketing. So you must have people with different backgrounds. So people with media background, of course, they'll be able to understand how the media works. They'll be able to understand better what kind of messaging resonates well with the media. Whereas people with marketing background, they'll be able to understand tactics, strategies, locations, pricing, when it comes to advertising, amplifying your corporate messaging. So I think, and it's important to understand for any organization, SMEs especially, management and the communication teams, and even any other divisions within the business, they must be able to work well to complement each other. This is where teamwork comes, and this is where communication can help to build productivity. So when you have good communication, you have clarity. When you have clarity, it's easier to tell your subordinates what exactly you want, what exactly you don't want. So, then you'll be able to expedite your deliverables. So if you notice, products usually, or your deliverables will become, will be delayed when people don't understand what exactly they need to do. So I think communication is often the issue. And in our culture as well, we don't like to be embarrassed. We don't want to ask questions that they think, the bosses might think that, if I ask this question, bosses might think that I do not know my subject matter, but you shouldn't have this mindset. Open mindset is important to ensure that you'll be able to identify real gaps, not gaps that you gather from the internet and you gauge that, okay, this must be my organization gaps. So, you must be able to be okay with with being uncomfortable. We must be comfortable to be uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So I think it doesn't matter what background you are, but it's a teamwork. The leaders can help to guide the middle level operations on what type of skills they need to develop. So communication is a skill that you can develop. It's not something that someone is born with. Some people, they might be more, they might be more talkative, they might be good in public speaking, but if they don't have the skill in what platform to use and what is the best time to communicate, then it's not that effective as well. So you must have all these complementary values within your team members so that you can be productive and ensure that everybody knows what's happening. Everybody knows how to do things better. Everybody knows how to ensure that we create values to our stakeholders. So remember, invest in value, not in cheap. So that's from me.
Thank you so much, Puan Zuhaila, for your sharing of experiences. It's been a great pleasure to having you here. So we'll see you in another occasions, insyaAllah. Okay, that is Puan Zuhaila Sedek, the Head of Corporate Communication MITI. So we'll see you again next week in another episode with a great topic. So stay tuned.